Angela Edwards, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Sport and Community Development, Mrs. Beverly Harry Emmanuel, Executive Director of the Community Mediation Program, managers, social workers, and all other staff of the Community Mediation Program, parents and guardians, good afternoon. I am pleased to join you today at the start of this virtual Parent Support Group Symposium and Workshop. The global pandemic has caused us to innovate and re-engineer those tasks that we once thought were efficient and effectively meeting our needs. This Parent Support Symposium is one such example. Under normal circumstances, I would be addressing you in person at an event space, and we would have the opportunity to personally interact with the facilitators and each other. However, that type of interaction is somewhat forbidden at this time. We must therefore avoid fixating on what we can no longer do and take full advantage of the opportunity to chart a new course, to extend our reach, and to make a more significant, relevant, and timely impact. At a time when parents are required to exercise an even greater sense of responsibility for their children, and many are seeking guidance on how to cope, our innate resilience compels us to find a new way to serve our communities. It is in this light that we hereby present a virtual version of our Parent Support Symposium. There are many theories on the various stages of childhood development. Whether the perspective is cognitive, behavioral, psychosocial, or psychosexual, there is still no comprehensive playbook for parents and guardians, especially against the backdrop of what is a constantly evolving playing field. While the next few days cannot provide a catch-all solution to every hurdle, you will be given the tools as parents, guardians, and caregivers to better manage and cope with being responsible for the welfare and well-being of those in your charge. This is where the Ministry of Sport and Community Development, or Community Mediation Program, and this Parent Symposium play a critical role. Our tagline, "Talk it out, don't fight it out," speaks volumes to the desired outcomes of the program. Our children are influenced by what they see in their home, among their peers, and of course in the online community. Both children and parents can become easily overwhelmed by the constant bombardment of both good and bad information. There is need for perspective, guidance, advice, and even an outlet. This is what we are determined to provide over the next few days of this symposium. The focus is on you, the parent, the guardian, helping you to navigate through the challenges of the awesome role of parenthood and assisting you in developing better relationships and a peaceful environment in your home. You will learn some essential life skills such as stress management, assessing your strengths, decision making, key tools not only for parenting but also for life. You will explore a series of techniques that will help you to better understand teenagers and provide them with the necessary support towards their smooth transition into adulthood. Our team will work with you to help you to differentiate between healthy and destructive relationships and guide your teen to do the same. You will improve your ability to successfully resolve conflict and learn how to foster a non-violent and nurturing environment. Parents, guardians, I implore you, do not keep this information to yourself. Share your newfound knowledge with your family, friends, and your community by extension. It is important to meet, share experiences, and talk about new strategies, but all this talk would redound to nothing if we fail to act. To whom much is given, much is expected. So as the old adage instructs, each one must teach one. This is your duty if we ought to truly transform our communities. It starts with you. And as the little children say, caring is sharing. I therefore urge you to get out there and share, share, share. Spread the word. Incite action. Be agents of change. Make your contribution. As I close, I thank you for signing up in your hundreds and for your earnest participation. I extend to you best wishes for a productive program. May God bless you and may God richly bless our nation. I thank you.
Welcome to Community Mediation Services Division first virtual parent support group workshop. Have you ever heard about mediation? Mediation assists persons in resolving conflict between neighbors, family members, parents, and in their communities. This is our first virtual parent support group workshop. The parent support group was started to assist parents in navigating the challenges of parenting. Today, we have with us Ms. Vanessa Gibbs, who will be facilitating Mastering Your Stress. So sit back and listen for the next half an hour. Don't forget to like our page and share this with other parents who may be going through similar challenges like yourself.
Good day everyone, my name is Vanessa Gibbs and I'm a social work specialist with the Community Mediation Services Division. Welcome to our first virtual parent support symposium. Today I will be discussing with you the topic, Mastering Your Stress. I know many of you may be experts at mastering your own stress, and some of you may be armed with your pens and paper ready to get these tips, because who doesn't want to conquer stress? But really, I'd like for you to relax and listen to the information you're about to receive with an open mind. Remember, all that is needed for behavior change is a change in perspective. So today's subtopics are, we're going to define stress, we're going to look at what a stressor is, and we're going to examine the value of mindfulness to gain perspective and reduce stress. So what is stress? Stress is a feeling of emotional or physical tension. It can come from an event or a thought that makes you feel frustrated, angry, or nervous. Stress, therefore, is a feeling we get in response to a stimulus. But what do I mean by a stimulus? So a stimulus or a stressor are the events or conditions in our surroundings that may trigger stress. Your body responds to stress differently depending on whether the stress is new or if it's short term. So the intensity of your stress response is directly related to your appraisal of the stressor and if you think you have the resources needed. So for example, you're given a work-related task to do, but you don't feel you have the skill set needed. Then the resources that you think you need to have to overcome this challenge is inadequate. Or you have a financial obligation, but you don't have adequate funds. So therefore, the resources needed, whether it be a skill set, financial resources, tangible resources, is inadequate to really settle the demand that you're experiencing. Therefore, stress occurs when you feel like the pressure is greater than the resources. Some sources of stress can be different for different people. So for example, having no money is stressful. Having too much money is stressful. Not having a car is stressful. Having a vehicle is stressful. Being unemployed is stressful. Having a work is stressful. Being single is stressful. Being married, well, I'd rather not say. Having no children is stressful. Having children, you feel to pull out your hair with stress. So you see where I'm going with this. But stressors are usually unpredictable and unplanned. We can't look through our windows and spot stress walking down the street and close up our windows and close up our doors and say, alright stress, I see you coming, not me and you today. In a perfect world we can do that. But in reality, sometimes we really just have to be able to deal with what comes our way. So let's look at a video that will help us understand stress and stressors a bit more. The name of the video is Donkey in a Well Story. Have a look.
Once upon a time there was a farmer who had a most excellent donkey. One day the donkey stepped into an old rotten board and fell into a deep well that hadn't been used in several years. The donkey cried out to be rescued, but the farmer saw no solution. Begrudgingly, he decided that there was no hope for the old donkey. He would put the donkey out of its misery and fill the well with dirt. The farmer convinced himself that the animal would end its suffering soon, and the old well would be filled with dirt so no one else could fall down it. The farmer got help from his neighbors, and soon shovels full of dirt quickly went into the well. The donkey wailed, struggled, and frantically cried out. To everyone's relief, though, suddenly the donkey became quiet. After 10 minutes, the farmer looked down into the well and was astonished by what he saw. The donkey was still alive and progressing towards the top of the well. The donkey had discovered that by shaking off the dirt instead of letting it cover him, he could keep stepping up on the dirt as the levels rose. Soon the donkey was able to step out of the well. He excitedly trotted off into the field. Life tends to shovel dirt on top of us from time to time. The trick is to shake it off and rise above it.
Now the moral of that story is life is going to throw dirt on you. The goal is to confront those challenges. And I love this story because we can use it to teach our children about stress. That stress is a necessary part of life. And it helps them to build a healthy response to stress. So I want them to understand that stressful events can teach us, can help us learn and grow. But it really depends on how we perceive stress. Now, in the story of the farmer and the donkey, you'd have seen where the farmer appraised the situation and he realized that he didn't have the resources needed to help the donkey out of the well. So he decided that he would throw dirt in the well and hopefully cover up the well so that nobody falls in the well. And in his assessment, that was a good strategy and there's one solution out. But it was at the demise of the donkey. The donkey now had to find a way out. Now he had no resources. But somehow he figured out that the dirt could be used as a resource to help him get out of the well and use it as a stepping stone to overcome. Sometimes we really need to confront our challenges head on with a positive mindset, because sometimes when people don't see a way out, you still have to find your way out. Remember, stress at one point may have been your greatest teacher, because it may have taught you a skill, may have added value to your life in some way or the other, or it would have changed your belief system. Now we know famous people who would have overcome adversity. Like we all know the story of Oprah Winfrey and her rise to success and how much she had to overcome to be one of the most influential and richest person in the entertainment industry. But locally, I find Shamla Maraj's life story to be truly inspirational. And she's the host of TTT's segment, Unique Not Different. Being born with cerebral palsy would have undoubtedly created additional stresses in her life, such as environmental stressors, health stressors, challenges of our school system, performing basic tasks like moving from point A to point B, eating, sleeping, being involved in social activities, and even her experience in school. I mean, in our school system, a desk and chair is provided, but someone with cerebral palsy may not be able to sit in one of those chairs. Yet, her tenacity and perseverance earned her a PhD, and her segment provides a platform for this underrepresented community to showcase their contributions and achievements. Now, in her story, she mentioned that her fear motivated her. Her fear not to be stagnant, her fear not to be left behind, her fear of not being financially independent, her fear of not contributing. Her fear helped her to live an exceptional life. Now, more importantly from this story, or her life journey, she would have been able to appraise her stressors and saw that she, even though the resources may not have been forthcoming, she saw her challenges she appraised her stressors and it shaped her stress response. So if she had seen that her stressors were beyond her capacity, then she would have experienced intense stress. But somehow along the way, she found a way to make it work. Now, Shamla's attitude towards life reminds me of a study. Research from Harvard found that reframing stress as helpful rather than harmful can improve performance and reverse psychological changes brought on by stress. Now, in this study, with about 30,000 participants, the researchers explored the relationship between the experience of stress and the perception that stress affects our health and mortality. They asked the participants about the amount of stress they had experienced and if they perceived stress to be adverse to their health. The results were astonishing. Those who reported experiencing high levels of stress and also believed that stress adversely affected their health had a 43 risk increase of premature death. Conversely, those who experienced high levels of stress but didn't believe it to be harmful were at the lowest risk of dying, even lower than people who did not experience a lot of stress. Now, take a minute to let her sink in, absorb that information. The evidence on this study was compelling, that stress alone isn't dangerous, but believing it to be so is. And this is the first study of its kind that explored not the impact of stress on the person's body, but the impact of the perception that it had on someone's health. Now, we all know that neighbor, that friend, that relative who has been through hell and back, who have gone through so much life-changing events and stressors, but still manages to have a healthy outlook on life. And it's always the first to help, like you see them around, we know them. And that may very well be related to how this person perceives stress in their life. Now, in keeping with the theme of reframing our perceptions of stress, another research was done. And this research was from the University of Rochester. And it says that learning to rethink how we see our physiological response to stress, such as shaking hands, sweating, pounding heart rate, as good and the body preparing itself to deal with stress, had favorable outcomes. So let me tell you a bit about this study. The study had 67 participants. They were told that they had to give a 5-minute talk on themselves, their strengths and their weaknesses. They were given 3 minutes to prepare. They had to come in front of 2 judges. Those judges were told to give the participant non-verbal, judgmental feedback. Roll your eyes, tap your clipboard, tap your feet on the ground. Anything that can make them nervous and kind of arouse the stress response. Subsequent to that telling their story, they also had to do an arithmetic test where they had to count down from 996 in increments of 7. And if they made a mistake, they had to start all over. Now, in this study, the first group was giving information on stress and the benefits of stress, and were told to think of their coping strategies, the natural reactions that their body will feel under pressure, as energy and preparation to get them through this stressful situation. The other group wasn't prepped. So you can imagine the results. Now, the group that did not or didn't receive the information received a threat response. The other group felt as though they had the capacity and resources to weather through the challenge, and they felt better overall. So this concept about how we reframe and how we think stress and our physiological changes really had a change in our behavior and how we dealt with stress. Now, in the first part of the presentation, we talked about defining stress. We looked at understanding our stressors and the benefits of reframing how we think about stress. Now, we're moving into the second part of the presentation, and that is to examine the benefits of mindfulness. Yes, I know, many of you may be rolling your eyes and wondering if mindfulness can really help manage stress. And to be very honest, I used to think that mindfulness was corny and silly, and then I realized that basically every problem I had came down to not being mindful. My relationships felt empty. or empty. I felt bored, and I felt like I wasn't learning anything new, and like I was half present in life. And only then I realized that I was checking out of life, like almost as I was on autopilot. So what really is this mindfulness? Mindfulness is a brain technique extracted from Buddhism. It's about being present and attuned to the here and now. So when you're mindful, you observe your thoughts and feelings from a distance without judging them as good or bad. Instead of life passing you by, you live in the moment. But that still doesn't really help you understand what mindfulness is. But maybe this will. So here are some signs when you're not being mindful. You're constantly on autopilot. So for instance, and I do this a lot, I'm kind of, getting the hang of it now. So I'm driving down from work and I pass like 3-4 traffic lights. And I can't remember any of them being on either red or green. It means that I wasn't focusing on the here and now, which is dangerous because I could have gotten an accident, or even worse, I could have caused an accident. You may have problems remembering. So you take off your watch, you rest it down, next 5 minutes you don't know where you put it. Or you did something 5 minutes ago, or you did something yesterday and you just can't remember what you did. Or you're constantly overthinking. You feel distracted when communicating with others. Sometimes you're eating and you're eating in a trance. So people seeing you eating, but they're also seeing that your mind not here. It's almost as though the wheels, as I say, the wheels turning, but nobody's there. And another thing is that you're bad with names. Now I know this last part sounds kind of stranger, and you may be wondering, bad with names? So let me give you an example. You're in the workplace, as orientation, new staff comes in, and they introduce themselves to you. But while they're saying their name, your mind is on the email, on the children fighting at home, on the loan installment you have to pay back, and you really didn't hear the person's name. You weren't in that moment to receive new information because your mind was distracted with so many other things. So when you're going down the corridor and you see the person, and like, oh gosh, I forget your name. Really, did you ever learn their name to forget it in the first place? So mindfulness, one of the signs that you're not mindful is that you have so many things happening in your mind all at once that you're not in the here and now and able to experience what's happening with you now. So I know some people learn better when they see videos. So I want to show you this video on mindfulness. First, to really get the concept and see what happens to us when we go on autopilot as opposed to being mindful.
Humans are natural time travelers. It's true. Now, I'm not talking about the type of time traveling which Neutrino can do. I'm talking about mental time traveling. Check it out.
Okay, Dante, now this is what I want you to do. I want you to get all the files and put them... Sabrina, there is nothing to argue about. 9 p.m. is your curfew and that's it.
Dad, I'm not a little kid. Billy gets to stay out till 10. You and Mom just don't get it.
Okay, so what do you think, Dante? What? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Moon. I missed that. Gosh darn it, Durango, pay attention. Terrible.
Dante, you'll never believe what happened to me today.
Terrible, terrible, terrible. You know what, Durango? We don't really need you anymore since you're so terrible.
Dante, isn't that great? Dante, did you hear me?
See what I mean? It's possible to leap unconsciously into a future which has yet to happen or slip quickly into the past. The problem is, your time in these realms is often spent ruminating about stressful events. What's more is, you miss out on precious time to grab opportunities, to engage fully in life, and to just be. You miss out, my friends, on the present. So what can you do to savor the here and now? Let's look at an ancient Buddhist practice known as mindfulness. Mindfulness is linked to many benefits.
Hello? Oh, hi. Neutrino sent me here today. I've been kinda stressed out. She said you might be able to help.
Oh, hey Dante, perfect timing. I've been talking about mindfulness.
Oh, well, I don't think I can make my mind blank. No, I'm not like a yoga person. That stuff doesn't work for me.
No problem then, because the goal of mindfulness is certainly not to create a blank slate.
Well, what's it about then?
Have a seat, I'll show you. Now, first things first, relax and close your eyes. Trust me. Now, bring your attention to your breath. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. I want you to engage your senses fully. Notice each sight, touch, and sound within your mind's eye. Your thoughts may wander.
Oh, shucks, I can't do this.
No, you're doing great, Dante. This time, instead of reacting to your thoughts, I want you to pretend you are just an observer watching your thoughts float by without reaction or judgment.
An observer? Okay, I'll try it.
Mindfulness disentangles you from reacting to particular emotions and thoughts as you become a non-judgmental observer of yourself. Mindfulness can be practiced in many different ways. There are meditations, physical practices. You can even practice mindful eating. The important thing to remember is each path is an invitation to wake up, experience the fullness of your life, and to transform not your problems, but your relationship with your problems.
Wow, I was able to think about all my problems without losing it. That was, well, different and good. Thank you.
Anytime, my friend, anytime.
Now in that video, how many of you could honestly relate to Dante? Now Dante was on autopilot. His mind was distracted with thoughts of the past and of the future. So while his boss was talking to him, asking him about his opinion or giving him information that could probably help him with a task, Dante, like the time traveler that he is, went back into the past and remembered that fight that he had with his daughter. Now in that moment, he really didn't hear what his boss was saying, which created problems in the workplace for him. Then we fast forward. He went home. His wife's, probably his wife, could be his sister, but let's say his wife was excited to see him. She had some news she wanted to share with him. But you know what? Dante now fast forward to the future. And because he had that misunderstanding there with the boss or miscommunication, he started to think of all of the things that could happen to him or that can happen next when he goes to work. And he missed that opportunity to bond with his wife or to feel that joy that the wife was feeling. So what actually happened is Dante was experiencing stress even though he wasn't in a stressful situation. And of course, women like to know that they're being heard and listened to. And in that moment, his wife probably didn't feel as though she was heard or listened to, which undoubtedly created problems in the relationship. So when we are not mindful, it adds stressors onto us. So we had work-related problems. But now we have relationship problems because we didn't connect with people when they were connecting with us. Now, our attention is absorbed in our thinking. What do I mean by that? I mean our minds are busy comparing, planning, goal setting, remembering, and analyzing. Because we have so many things going on with us that it's natural for us to kind of tap in and out to remember certain things, because actually you need to remember if there's something important coming up that you need to jot down or so forth. But if it is that you're always doing it, then wouldn't that feel very empty? I want you to reflect on how many times during this presentation that you got distracted with a thought while listening, or you found yourself zoning out or going on to autopilot. I actually just want you to notice that. Now take a look at this picture on your screen. It looks like a father and daughter. It looks like they're enjoying a beautiful day out. The sun is out with a kind of tranquil environment. But look at what is happening with Dad. Dad is remembering something, or he's thinking about something, and it looks work related. Now, as the natural time traveler that we are, according to Science Guy, he would have either fast forward or went back in the past. Now, Dad was distracted with something work related, which robbed him quality time of being with his daughter. And what happens is when we remember something, if we are not able to just let it float by, we actually inhabit that thought and we become angry or frustrated. However, the thought made us feel we actually inhabit that. So if Dad was feeling frustrated or if he felt anxiety because of that work-related thought, what happened is, although he was not in that moment, he still felt all of the stress response of that moment. And he didn't enjoy time with his daughter. So he probably came back feeling unfulfilled from that little bonding time with his daughter because he wasn't actively engaged in the moment. Now I want to say this. We will have multiple stressors in our lives. That's part of life. If you look at our lifeline, it goes up and down. It's not linear. It's not predictable. It's not straight. If it is, then we're dead. Life is going to come at us. Things that are going to come at us. So we're going to have to be dealing with multiple things. But really and truly, we need to focus to effectively get rid of one stressor or one task. We really need to focus. So what do I mean by that? We may be looking at an email that we need to send off, or we engage in a task. But again, we're remembering so many things, or we're thinking about our future and the anxiety of COVID-19. Now I start accustomed sending my children to school. Now I have to do online learning. Now I have to make sure they have internet, that they have the laptop, and all of these things floating through your mind. But you have this email to send by 5 o'clock and it's 4:55. But you're typing, you know. You're still typing because nothing wrong with your hands. But midway through the paragraph you recognize that, oh gosh, I said now earlier what I wanted to say, you know. But you were not ready, or you were not able to efficiently deal with that task because you didn't direct your attention to the here and now. Your thinking and your attention was absorbed in other things other than what was happening with you here and now. Now mindfulness has a lot of benefits. It increases focus. It makes you less emotional, reactive. It helps with stress reduction. And it guards against depression and anxiety. And this one is very important. Because think about it. If you're walking around the day and you have so many things in your mind all at once, all of this clutter, all of the family business you're studying, the children you're studying, the money in the bank that you're studying, or the money in the bank that you don't have you're studying, then really and truly, you're going to be feeling stressed and tense all the time. But it robs you from those key moments when you're actually not stressed, when it's actually time for you to build. So for instance, you're watching television, you're watching a nice documentary. It's a moment for you to learn, for you to absorb, for you to get information. But somehow your mind not there, and you didn't even notice it. So you take off the TV and say, oh gosh, that documentary was boring, yes, I ain't learned nothing. But if you think about it, where was your attention? Were you really focusing on that documentary? Just think about that. Now I know people have different learning styles, so some would learn with audio, some verbal. I want to actually do an activity with you. It's called a balloon exercise. Now it's about mindful breathing. We're going to actually be doing some deep breathing. Mindful breathing is very basic and powerful. The idea is to focus your attention on your breath. Notice what's happening with you. So I'm going to demonstrate this to you. So we're going to pretend that we have a balloon. We're going to inhale through our nostrils for 4 seconds and exhale through our mouth for 4 seconds. But when we're inhaling, our hands are constricting as though the balloon is getting smaller. And when we're exhaling, we're expanding our hands as though we're blowing into this balloon. So I'm going to do it. So I'm going to inhale for 4 and exhale for 4. I'm going to inhale again for 4. I'm going to exhale again for 4. Now I want you to try this with me. And let's try and focus all of our attention into that moment, into that breathing exercise, into directing our attention into what our body is sensing. So let's try. So you're going to inhale for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4. Inhale again for 4. Exhale for 4. Now you're going to notice a tingling in your fingers, a cool sensation in your palms. Notice you rise and fall of your chest. Some of you will be getting in a relaxed state, and some of you may not be able to. You're We're going to do it 2 more times. Inhale for 4. Inhale again. And exhale for 4. I just want you to rest your hands gently on your legs, your chest, wherever feels comfortable for you. Now, many of you may have been able to follow through that exercise, while others won't. Probably because you went into autopilot, probably because you got distracted, or probably because you thought the exercise was silly. Now, even if you thought the exercise was silly, just that mere thought made you stop the exercise. And I want you to notice that. And that shows the power of our minds and thoughts, and more importantly, the need to control it. Our well-being and mental health and experience in life are profoundly shaped by where we place our attention. It is so important. Now you may think of this as something that is simple, but I guarantee if you continue to practice this mindfulness and be aware, you're going to feel as though you're connecting more with your family and friends. You're going to feel as though you're living. You're going to feel as though you're better in control of your stressors because you are able to focus on one task as it comes and not be scattered. Now the key points I want you to take away from this presentation is that adversity comes with rewards. And I gave you that story of Oprah Winfrey. She had to overcome parental neglect, sexual abuse, racism, and she was able to do that and reap the rewards. Even in the story of Shamla Mirage, she was able to really embrace her life in its totality and really live a very fulfilling life. The second point I want you to remember, responses to stressors need to be controlled since emotions are a temporary state of mind. And we would have seen that in the video, we'd have seen that if we go back to the donkey in our well story. Now, he was actually facing life and death. So you can imagine in that situation, his heart was racing, he was sweating. Now, if he had really applied what the study said and used that fight or flight response, those physiological changes or responses to stress as good coping and think that's going to help him through, then he would have probably been able to, as opposed to feeling as though this is bad for me and something bad is going to happen to me. And with doing that, he was able in that moment to get himself out of a trap. And the third thing I want you all to remember is mindfulness is a brain technique. Just like we strengthen the muscles in our body with exercise and making sure that we move around, the same thing with our brain. If we don't sharpen it, if we don't take care of it, and if we don't strengthen it, it's just going to be there. Your attention is directed, or our attention is directed to our sensing and physical sensations, rather than being absorbed in our thinking. So from this presentation, I know that many of you are looking in to see that they get these tips. But the real tip was to, if we reframe the way we see stress, if we reframe our thinking of our physiological responses to stress, then it could be favorable. Now, stress is going to come. It's a part of life. It's a part of our experiences. However, our response, our approach, our perception has to be positive. And our children are looking at us. So if every time we're in a stressful situation and we're upset and we're looking to quarrel about it or be sad about it, they're also absorbing that and they also feel like, okay, I can't deal with this stress, this is too much for me. So let's start with us and let's teach our children how to have a healthy response to stress. So we're coming down to the end of the presentation. And now, we will move on now to a reflective activity and practicing mindfulness skills for those who register to our breakout room exercises. Now this is the part where we will be inviting you all to move into those rooms so that you can do the exercise with our facilitators. Now in one of the rooms, you'll be doing a reflective exercise where you'll be asked to examine the past and present in a visually stimulating way. So going through that, you'll actually recognize from your highs and lows in life what you would have gained, what value it would have added to your life. So we start seeing those stressful situations as positive because it helped us in some way. And in room 2 and 3, we're going to have practical exercises to build mindfulness, to start to strengthen our mind and really see if we can get this skill of mindfulness and placing our attention to here and now, if we can really do that. Now, I would again like to thank you all for being part of our first virtual parent support symposium. And I do hope that this presentation helped to change your approach, at least to stress, just to reframe how we see stress and understand that when we're not in a stressful situation and we're actually in a happy moment, we bring that stress with us if we don't focus on the here and now. Thank you.